Okay, so come in, sit down, Tarquin, old horse. Right, Chief, what's the beef? Oh, look, that rhymed. Don't do that again, Tarquin, or I'll force suggestive pictures of Vince Vaughn on you. Crikey, sir. Crikey indeed. So, we've had the latest strategic manifesto come down from the big chaps at head office, and I'd like you to help implement some of the latest changes to the people in the office. Oh, certainly, sir. That's a lot of responsibility, and, although I'd rather snooze behind my desk, look up women who spurned me when I was younger on social media and hope that they're miserable now, or just simply peruse porn, I will tell you to your face that I relish this opportunity to fill my day up with more maddening corporate guff. Jolly good man. So, here it is. Wait, sir, this is written in crayon. Good gracious, don't question it, Tarquin. They are busy bods at the top of the tree, and they don't have time for your logic or reason. Just implement the changes and get on with it. I have golf at 4, and I don't want to keep Marcy waiting again, or she removes my cookie privileges. Just one thing, sir. How do I go about shaving the backs of the thighs of the mailroom staff? Isn't that an invasion of privacy? Not to mention, I don't know, completely pointless? Tarquin, will you show some initiative and some backbone? Jeez. When I was a junior deputy vice assistant of sales and hand towel distribution, I was once asked to remove 13 of the nostril hairs of visiting dignitary Count de Frou-Frou of Belgium. I managed 6 before he woke up, and then managed 7 more while trying to fend off his wanton advances and dribble. I still have the scars above my hips for my troubles, but the point is, Tarquin, the point is I prevailed. We got the contract, and Basil Uppingbaum III, owner of all the flans, got a new yacht and a house in Cleethorpes which he had knocked down and turned into a furnace for his ex-wives. Right, but sir, number 3 says something about limb removal and fleshy waste to be placed in purple sacks provided, and what about clause 3 here? Says something about killing all the firstborn. Well, I don't know, maybe they mean it figuratively. God, do I have to have all the answers? You'll work it out, Tarquin. Now be on your way. Send in Marcus on your way out. Fetch me an industrial drum of highly perfumed lip gloss, a chainsaw, and find me the 1986 Christmas edition of the Radio Times featuring Terry Wogan's top 10 suggestions of what to do with mouldy old sweaters.
You're listening to the After Movie Diner with your host, Jon Cross.
Well, it has been a while.
It's been a while.
It has been a moment, a minute, they say.
It's been a long time.
So that is my favourite George Harrison song ever.
Really?
Yeah, because it's really weird on the White Album. It's like
It's really quiet.
it's really quiet, and then like the big ending bit where it goes all like that.
Yeah.
That is really loud. But the beginning bit with like the cool acoustic guitar and him going, "It's been a long
It's like one
time.
of my favourite McCartney songs is Can You Take It Back?
Can you take it from Mama? Can you take it back?" I also like Majesty's a pretty nice girl, and she's really a lot to say. Boom, 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 boom. Majesty's. Anyway,
Didn't John write a play?
yeah, I think it is.
And it
Probably.
ended with Her Majesty.
Probably.
And then with a boom, like the lights went out. It was very cool.
Anyway, from favourite Beatles songs.
Welcome to Favourite Beatles Songs, the podcast where we talk about our favourite Beatles songs.
songs in a diner.
This week,
in
our
Manhattan.
favourite Beatles songs.
Anyway, looking through a glass onion at Jim
Nice.
in a diner. I don't know, it was the only food related one I can come up with.
I liked it.
Thank you. I quite like the other Harrison one that's all about a box of
Savoy
chocolates.
truffle.
Yeah, I quite like that.
Yeah,
And I love Blue Jay Way as well.
Yeah, Blue Jay Way's really
Oh,
good.
Blue Jay Way's really good.
I was always watching the Don't Bother Me as well, like of the early Beatles songs.
Oh,
Don't
yeah,
Bother Me is
Don't
one of my
Bother
favourites.
Me.
Don't go away, leave me.
Yeah,
I don't know
good.
what in the grumpy teenager it was that appealed to me about that song.
I don't know what it is about the
George
irascible, miserable English people that we were like, you know what, my favourite George Harrison ones
It's
are the
called
ones where he's telling people to just drunk. fuck themselves.
Leave me alone.
I'm eating chocolate, or
alone.
it's either it's been a long time, or
Yeah.
don't bother me, or I'm eating chocolate. Either way,
Yeah.
everyone just shut the fuck up and piss off. Anyhow, we're back, Jim.
We are back.
We're back in a diner.
We're back.
In Manhattan.
We've spent the intervening time talking about the Beatles.
We have.
So please forgive our indulgence and
Which is
wrapping
interesting
that up.
because the Beatles have absolutely nothing to do with this movie. Oh, except Piggy's influenced Charles Manson, kind of a serial killer, kind of a link
Helter
there.
Skelter, wasn't it?
And Piggy's. He wrote Piggy's on the wall in blue.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. I know Helter Skelter.
That's a great song. Helter Skelter's really good.
I don't know
as
how you
well.
get mass murder from I don't know why you'd listen to Helter Skelter and go, you know what? I'm going to start a race war.
Where
I
at
don't-
least Piggy's is about killing the fat pig rich.
Right. Anyway,
We're back in
we
the
suck
diner.
at introducing
We
podcasts.
do. It's
We've
the
forgotten
after-
how to do it.
It's hello and welcome to the After Movie Diner
Better.
with your host Jon Cross.
Better.
And in the diner with me this week is
Bated breath. Who is it? Who's it going to be?
my regular co-host.
Oh, not him.
Yeah,
Don't like him.
regular co-host. The
When's he going to get the funny one back? I like the funny one.
the continuously balding Jim Wallace.
It's just happened. I'm
It
ball
just
dead. It's gone. That's
No,
it.
you still got hair.
I've got a bit.
You've got like the Phil Collins thing. You should really grow like a Phil Collins late 80s, early 90s mullet, where he grew that because you've got the landing
Yeah.
strip
Yeah.
that comes right out,
Yeah.
and then the receding bits. If you grew like the mullet, it would be a thing.
When I
of wonder.
swept it back.
like the Mel Gibson kind of Lethal Weapon mullet.
Okay, so what you're saying is I should turn myself into a walking joke for your amusement.
For my amusement.
Okay.
Listen.
Well, I tell you what, I'll have a think about it. All right, I'll get back to you.
I think, strangely, more people would listen to the podcast if they knew you had a Collins-esque mane of wonder atop your
That
bumps.
I do believe.
As opposed to...
I do believe that the numbers would go up if my hair was silly.
Don't worry, you're silly enough as it is,
Thank you very much.
without the hair.
Thank you very much.
And it's a pleasure to have you back. I have
Thanks,
missed
man.
you.
I've missed you too. I've missed coming here.
That's not to say anything
We just
against our guests that we've had in your stead.
What was our last one then?
Honestly, right now, I don't know.
I can't remember.
I think it was a Blu-ray one, I think.
Yeah, I think it probably was, right? Oh, I know what it was. It was the Brian Trenchard Smith one. That was the last one we did. The Man from Hong Kong.
Is Trenchy Smith really the last one we did?
That was the last one we did.
Wow.
We've just been busy. We've been busy doing
We
stuff.
have. We are, I tell you what, we are incredibly busy.
We are busy people.
And
So
yet,
I'm very in demand as a podcast guest.
in no way important.
No, I'm not. I'm also not in demand.
The level
as a
of our
podcast.
busyness does not in any way relate to the level of our importance. If anything, it is completely antithetical because I'm very busy but not important
Yeah,
in the
it's
slightest.
almost as if we're forced to be busy because of how unimportant we are. If we were more important, people wouldn't need us to be so busy.
Exactly. But if we were more important, we'd have to pretend to be busy because of how important we were.
I think I could probably find a way around that.
Yeah.
what I mean?
I constantly assume that upper management and CEOs and that level are pretending to be important.
I don't think they're pretending to be important. I think they spend their days in a state of almost constant freak out. That's what I think. I don't think they do anything except freak out. I think they're paid to freak out.
Oh, you think they're so worried
Yeah.
that they're insignificant?
No, I think they're so worried about like everything they do. That somebody more important than them with a bigger car is going to come along and go, that thing went wrong. That was your fault. Why did that thing that was
Well,
your
that's what I
fault
mean.
go wrong?
Not insignificant, insecure. That's what I mean.
Insecure.
Yeah.
Insecure, yes. Anyway,
I'm-
that's corporate America done with. Shall we get on with
Well, no, because that ties in very neatly. You see what I've done there?
Oh, that is
you
clever.
see what I've done there?
That is very
isn't
clever.
that clever?
It was so clever, I didn't even see it
You
happen.
didn't even see it
was
happening,
invisible.
did you? You didn't even see it happening.
This is why you're the host of the podcast, and I'm barely an occasional guest.
It was circular.
If anything, I just slow you up, mate.
Yeah, and if you follow,
we're still thinking.
I will have a point.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
If you follow my finger, I will have a point.
Oh, that is good. I like that.
Yeah, so from the Beatles to being non-important
No, that's not the
to
Beatles.
corporate... Hang on.
Oh, I see you're actually drawing the whole line of the podcast. I'm sorry.
God, I'm about to punch you in your ugly face.
Well, I'm not the one doing all the talking. It's you.
I'm only kidding. It's a very beautiful, if somewhat squidgy face, but beautiful nonetheless.
It is a bit squidgy.
And I do love it in my own way. So, from Beatles to being busy but not important to discussing the relative importance of big business to a movie which sort of looks at the whole corporate environment and what it possibly could be, and the big conspiracy of our times, maybe. Or it's just a movie where people kill a lot of people. Why don't you say the name of it, Jim, and give us a bit of the background to it?
So now, okay, just very quickly, is it Belko Experiment or the Belko Experiment? I think it was the Belko Experiment, right?
Does it matter?
No, probably not.
No.
So it's called the Belko Experiment.
I think maybe the reason why you're not more important than what you actually are
It's 'cause I get hung up on that?
you get hung up on things like, is
That's
it
right.
the Belko Experiment or Belko
I just-
Experiment?
yeah.
By which point, the listeners have already fallen asleep.
I feel like if that was going to happen, it's probably already happened.
Probably happened.
Yeah. So, all right, very quickly
Okay.
though, before I get into it, should people see the movie?
Yes.
Yes, they should, right?
Yes. I don't know that it's a cinema movie. I think it's a rental or a late night cable.
No, we're still waffling. I'm sorry. Well, let's figure out what we're going to eat. Well, but yes, I agree. I wouldn't say. I mean, it's never going to be a cinema movie for anybody listening to this anyway. Because one of the reasons we liked going to see this is it's clearly on one screen in New York for a week, and it was.
I think it's on like 3 screens, but yeah, it's only in. It's only doing a small run. Yeah.
Small run, small release, looked like an instant little horror film. Exactly the kind of thing that we were saying has not been around for a long time, and this was definitely that film.
My thing is, if it comes on Netflix, watch it.
Definitely.
Or Hulu or Amazon.
It's a
or whatever.
Netflix. I think we'll probably get onto that, but I think it's a perfect Netflix movie, frankly.
I was thinking, by the way, just to divert from the film for a memento, I was thinking ham, egg and chips.
I think I'm going to get Skylight's chili burger.
Oh, that would be interesting. That would be interesting.
Well, that's what I'm going to do.
Do you know what you've done there?
Hey,
You've made
yes,
an
we are.
interesting
Now we're
decision.
ready. Sorry
Now
about
he's ready.
that. Can I get the Skylight's chili burger?
Skylight chili burger? Yeah. French fries?
No, just plain and well done. Thank you.
And I will have ham, eggs, 2 eggs, ham and fries, please.
Okay, you want?
Yep. And can I also get just a regular Coke?
Regular Coke? How would you like the eggs?
Oh, over easy.
Over easy? Yeah. The easy came with French fries. What kind of Coke?
Just,
Right.
does it come on the side or does it come on the
side.
on the side? Right then, right? Yes.
Drink?
Drink was a regular Coke.
Right, thank you very much.
I worry that none of that has been listened to. So it's fine.
No, I was worried too, but
I would have to say that's one of the things that I miss about England.
what's that?
In England, I could go ham, egg and chips, and they'd go fine and walk away. You know what I mean? You just say,
Yeah, fucking Americans wanting to know exactly what it is that
Ham,
you
egg
want
and
to make
chips.
sure they give you the experience you desire.
and
the
then
fuckers.
no, but here,
Yeah, but
because-
what they bring back in England, they bring back undercooked ham,
right,
eggs, you know,
eggs a la
closer
phlegm.
to like chicken than they are to cook.
Right, eggs a la
Yeah,
phlegm.
like phlegmy eggs, and like wet, like albino slug chips.
Albino
And they
slug
go, there you
chip.
go,
There you
£8,
go.
and you go. I wish I lived in America.
No, you're right. But I do miss just being able to go ham, egg and chips, mate.
I know what you mean. What you miss is being able to go to a place where when you say that, you get something good in return.
Right. No, it's just that here, the reason why I need to explain, here, on the menu, this is a breakfast item. Thank you, sir.
Do you say over easy?
Yes.
Yes, please, over easy. Yeah,
Okay.
so 2 eggs, ham, and fries.
Yeah.
That's great, thank you. Here, it's a breakfast item, and it's on the menu as eggs with ham, and then you have to stipulate fries, not home fries. So, like, it's a different thing. Whereas in England, ham, egg, and chips is like a meal. Like, it's just on the menu
Yeah,
as...
it's a greasy spoon meal.
It's a greasy spoon meal. And that's what I'm fancying right now, a greasy spoon
I
meal.
think you should have it with all speed, mate.
With all speed. With all...
fucking speed.
With all... with all speed and all severity. So,
Oh, I was going to. So should I sum up the movie then quickly?
Sum up the movie.
I'll give it my quick summary.
Watch it on cable or online as and when it appears there.
Yeah, I would definitely say when it comes on Netflix, watch it. It's a perfect little Friday night movie. Like, it would be perfect for our pizza and horror movie double bill night. No question.
And it was perfect the way we watched it in the cinema. Like, I was fine.
Yeah.
Watch it in the cinema, but it's not a.
I'm not sure it was 15 quid's worth of.
No.
Or like spectacle.
No.
Or anything. And it didn't have. It didn't have that. It had a Netflix movie feel to it. It didn't, it didn't have that like Bagman or like films like this should be in the cinema. It didn't have like a.
No,
it wasn't hugely ambitious.
No,
in that way, it was just like we haven't got a lot of money. Let's get some interesting people together.
I think make
a dark little comedy.
Before you explain the plot,
okay,
to give listeners a little bit of context.
Context away.
And I don't know everything about the movie, but it's written and produced by James Gunn.
Yes.
Who obviously had a run of, started off in Troma.
Yep.
Had a run of little, like, kind of grimy, grungy indie movies that were sort of cult hits, like Slither and Super. Finally got to do Guardians of the Galaxy, so became a big Hollywood thing, but obviously did.
Had he done any writing, like, in between Slither and... I'm just wondering why he got Guardians.
I think he'd done a lot of script work. I really do think he'd done a lot of script work and polish. And there's one other movie that I'm forgetting of his sort of climb up the ladder, but this strikes me as one of two things, and I don't know the answer to this. It's either an idea he had that he rattled off and went, oh, let's make this neat little movie in between Guardians and Guardians 2, just so that I can kind of keep my hand in the kind of indie movie making that I like to do. Or it's a script he's had knocking about for years, and they wouldn't make it until he had Guardians of the Galaxy. It's one of the two.
I would suspect it's probably... I mean, I'm only speculating here, but I would suspect...
Wait a minute. It's one of Jim's speculations, Jim's speculation.
I have no evidence for my theories.
He has no evidence for his theories.
What my suspicion
is... Speculation. It's what you need when you gotta be the best and you wanna beat the rest. Speculation.
Speculation and obscure pop culture references.
If you wanna be a speculator.
Nice.
Thank you.
It's pretty good. Thank you. Okay, so my speculation is, now that it's got a fucking theme tune, is, which is probably a good thing, is it's probably an older script. And the only reason I say that is they have a cell phone signal conversation.
Right.
But they never have an internet conversation. Nobody ever talks about going online and trying to get something. Nobody talks about Sky thing.
The computer is on halfway through.
Yeah. Now, and to be fair, that's an easy thing to explain away, just as much as it is like, oh, they've done something to the cell phone signal.
Right.
But cell phone signal conversation is classic, like, mid-90s movie talk. But now you have to talk about, internet and computers and, like, there's so many other ways to communicate, you know what I mean? And, like, they just want to breeze past that and get to the meat of the thing. So that's why I'd say it's probably...
My assumption was, because there was no signal, that all internet had been removed, even though when she went to her desk later in the movie, a web screen was still up.
Yeah. Well, no, it was email. It was email.
It was?
Yeah, and that could be internal.
All right.
I mean, I think it's... But it's just like, they never had the conversation, like, let's try and get somebody over email, let's try and get somebody over Skype, or
and also,
let's tap into the cable lines, you know what I mean?
Before you, again, just quickly, before you go into the plot... before you go into the plot. It strikes me as one of those ideas you get working in an office or whatever when you're in your, like, 20s, but, like, written exceptionally well and neatly. Much better than you would write it if you were a student. It kind of strikes me as an idea you've been kicking about a while.
Weird enough, it actually reminds me very strongly of a script that me and Ben wrote when we first came to London. We were asked, but there was a guy that he had some office that he was able to use for a shoot or something for like a week or something, and he wanted us to write a script for him that he could film in this office. And essentially the plot was the same.
Right.
It was people working in an office, and they can't get out.
Right.
And then in our script, they're being picked off like one by some like mysterious cloaked figure.
I remember reading this.
Yeah.
I remember reading
and who turns out to be like some kind of weird like representation of all of them. Like in the final fight, when the guy's going after him, the face keeps changing into the people that have already died throughout the movie. Anyway, it was all a bit, nonsense and abstract, but it was quite fun. But it was very similar. It was very violent. It was a bunch of office workers. It was that whole kind of thing, and that was, what would that have been, like mid 2000s, I guess. So I'm just saying, that's what it reminded me of when I was watching it. I'm wondering whether you're right. Like, I'm wondering whether this wasn't like a script that he wrote way back when and pulled it out and gave it a polish.
Yeah.
Because I think you're right. I think ours, it wasn't great, but you're right. What was interesting about this was it was very tight and.
Well, it had an idea and
sharp.
it played out.
Yeah, and it didn't compromise this idea either. It was very committed to seeing the idea through to the end, which I thought was very cool.
Yeah. So, what was that idea?
Right, so the idea is it's a bunch of. It's an American company in Bogota, in Colombia, and it's a big office building.
You said that so Englishly.
Sorry. How are you supposed to?
In Bogota, Colombia.
How are you supposed to say it?
Bogota, isn't it?
Is it Bogota?
Bogota.
Okay, well.
I don't know why. Anyway,
Bogota, whatever.
Bogota,
in the capital city
Let's
of Colombia.
call the whole thing off. I'm turning this into the musical. We've both seen La La Land. I was just trying to be. Anyway.
All right.
It almost won an Oscar.
Well, they won Best Director, didn't it?
No,
which I'm happy with because I thought it was best. I thought it was Best Director.
Yeah, but I
wasn't sure it was.
I'm going to be controversial. It wasn't Best Picture, but neither was Moonlight.
Well, I haven't seen Moonlight, so I couldn't say.
I watched it recently. Not Best Picture.
Let me like summarise the plot.
Sure, go ahead.
All right. So.
He's going to tell. He's going to tell. He's going to tell. He's going to...
Does this bit get a theme tune?
Summarization.
No, that's the same theme tune.
That is for my gentleman over there, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you very much. Wow, brilliant.
Lovely.
Wow, look at that. What the hell's that?
That would be a big tomato. No, carrot.
Carrot?
It's carrot, sir. And you've got a thing of mayonnaise.
There's not a lot of chilli on there, is there?
What were you saying about it not looking like a British greasy spoon?
I don't even know what this is.
What about that? How could it not look any more like a British greasy spoon?
Yeah, true. It's really weird. It's like mostly sweet corn and cheese. Not really what I'd expect.
Listeners, just to let you know, I've been handed quite the most miserable plate of ham, egg and chips I've ever seen. And Jim is prodding away at his chili burger with quite disdain and misery.
But
so I feel quite at home in a weird way.
But do you know what I mean? Like,
well, it's got carrots. Yeah, but I've never seen that on a burger before.
The carrots are like the size of your fist.
Yeah.
And it's cheese and... Like, what even is that?
But that's chili beans, isn't it?
No, what's that?
That's a celery.
What do they think chili is?
A bunch of
They
stuff.
think chili is celery, carrots, sweet corn and cheese.
Yeah. And chili beans.
It's like a vegetarian... There's no mince.
Well, no, the mince is the burger, you doofus.
I thought, no, if you get a chili burger, it's supposed to be chili on a fucking burger.
Well, it's chili beans.
I've never a chili bean burger.
Listen,
My good man, I wish to have a burger covered in carrots, chili beans, sweet corn and cheese.
Hello.
Who the fuck orders that?
I admit, it's fucking weird, mate, but it seems to be what you've ordered. I, on the other hand, have a plate of what looks like chips that... I look like chips that have crawled out of the fryer and have killed themselves.
It's so weird.
I can't describe how miserable my food looks. Look at that ham.
Oh, it's super miserable food.
Isn't it? Wow. The only thing they got right is the eggs. Everything else is fucking
Only
awful.
barely. I'd hardly describe that as over easy either.
Actually, the fries don't taste too bad.
No, it doesn't taste it bad. It's just fucking weirding me out.
Carry on then with the plot.
Right.
It's an office building in Bogota in the middle of nowhere.
It's an American company, some kind of big conglomerate. An office building in Bogota. And from what we can glean,
Glean, good word.
Thank you
Good
very much.
word.
They are a company who help other American companies in South America. Like, that's basically what's going on.
Right, but we also find out later that it's probably all a bit of a sham anyway.
Just let me tell the plot.
Yeah, all right, dude.
All right.
Come on, speed on.
With my vegetarian chililess burger. So,
It's not chilliness if there's chili beans. It would be
okay,
chilliness.
look, chili
Yeah.
is a thing, right?
Right.
And a very important part of that thing is chili beans.
Right.
But it is a part of it.
Right.
That's why
I'm
they
not
call
the
them
one-
chili beans.
I'm not the one who orders weird shit, mate.
I don't feel like a chili burger is weird shit.
I think
There we
it's-
go.
I think it's
Anyway,
fairly
look, let me
weird.
just get to the bleeding point. Right.
Right.
Office building, American conglomerate, in Bogota, in the middle of nowhere. They're all going about their day. When they arrive, however, there's weird security precautions, and all their cars are being checked, and all of the locals are being turned away,
Sent home, mate.
sent home.
Yeah.
Who work in the company, but who are local, they've been sent home. So, anyway, about half an hour into their day, a voice comes over the tannoy of the building and says,
Internal speaker system.
"You are part of an experiment. You have 2 hours to kill 2 people, and if not, we will kill 4 people. You will. We are serious." So, understandably, and then at this point, they're all a bit freaked out, so they try and leave, and then all of these security shutters go up all over the building, all over the windows, in a way that looks like the building was designed this way.
Right.
And then while they're still like freaking out about what's going on, 4 people's heads explode. And it turns out that they haven't been shot, but rather the tracking devices that the company has made them.
Which we find out because we see a new girl starting at the beginning of
Yeah.
the movie, and the guy explains that there are a lot of kidnappings in Bogota, so they do that for insurance and for safety reasons.
And it's these that have exploded. In other words, everybody in there has a bomb in their head. And when one guy tries to take it out, but they see him because there are cameras everywhere, and they threaten to blow it before he can get to it. So, and then they are told, you have 2 hours to kill 30 people, or 60 people will die. And there's like 75 people in the building.
Right.
And that's basically the setup of the movie.
Yeah. And basically everything that you could possibly theorize how a human would react plays out. With all the violence, meanness, madness, fear, and everything you could possibly imagine.
It is really fun. And the reason it's fun is it's got a very dark sense of humour all the way through.
Oh yeah, I mean it's
not like quippy.
no.
It's not quippy. It's the humour is very physical humour. You know.
Yeah. But black as all hell.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the bit that made me laugh the loudest was right at the end with the woman you've been following all the way through.
Right.
Who you in the back of your head you're thinking, is she going to be the only one to? And then what happens to her is like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, you know what I mean? It made me laugh. It was so, I don't know.
What's also interesting is as the film succeeds purely as an audience experience in the sense that it's worked if you have thought at any point in the movie all the different things like you would do, or all the different things you would, because, for example, one of the people who the CEO, the COO, played by your Goldwyn fella, baddie from Ghost, as I like to call him,
Or Christian Slater's partner from Cuffs, as I like to call him.
right? Or bad guy from The Mechanic, starring Jason Statham. He's also in that TV show Scandal.
He is in that TV
where
show.
he
Which is like where I
bossed the
suspect-
chick in the White House.
That's where I suspect Netflix are going to get their audience from. Is him.
The rest of the cast, of course, is filled out with James Gunn regulars.
And TV veterans as well. There's a lot of TV veterans. There's a guy from The Mentalist. There's the guy from
That's where he's
Killing
from,
and
the British
Life.
guy from the Members. But you got your Michael Rooker shows up.
Yeah.
James Gunn's brother, whose name I can never remember, but he plays the stoner on the roof.
Oh, that's James Gunn's brother.
That's James Gunn's brother,
great.
who's in everything
Yeah,
that
he's
James
brilliant.
Gunn does.
That's where I know him from then. Who's the little nerdy guy?
The little nerdy guy's from Marin.
No, I know him from something else. I know him from something.
Well, he's from Marin. He was Marin's assistant in the first two
Oh, yeah,
series.
okay.
The big guy, a couple of the big guys were in Slither, I think.
Yeah, he was in Slither. Yeah.
Greg Henry, because Greg Henry is literally in everything that he does.
Yeah. I'm saying to John, the thing that Greg Henry does best is smoke a cheroot. Nobody smokes a cheroot like Greg Henry.
What's a cheroot?
You know, the little thin little cigars.
Right, oh, because of the Firefly episode.
Yeah, but he's done it in other things as well. Payback and stuff.
So yeah, lots of James Gunn. Anyway, so the COO...
Actually, can I just say, after all my complaining, this isn't actually half bad. It's weirding me out, but it's quite tasty.
Same with me, actually.
Yeah.
It's quite tasty. It's quite what I wanted. The CEO, played by your Goldwyn fella, he, halfway through the movie, basically takes
We find out he's Special Forces, he's ex-Special Forces.
him and McGinley, both
Him and
are.
McGinley, yeah. And John McGinley from Scrubs.
John McGinley from Scrubs, yeah. But halfway through, like, he is painted to be this monster, this, like, real monster. In fact, him and McGinley both are, to some extent. And while you can never quite side with McGinley, because he really is just a bastard in the film, right from the beginning, there is a moment halfway through where you're like, maybe... No, the moment is when they're one short. And then you suddenly realize that twice as many are going to die. That's when you suddenly go, maybe he was onto something. And then you start seeing everyone's head going, and then you're like, maybe he was right. Like,
Yeah.
there is that moment.
Although, to be fair,
If he hadn't done it and they just killed the 30, there would have been another...
I think the most salient point in the whole movie was right at the beginning when your man said, you don't honestly think they're going to let anybody out.
Right.
Which, of course, is true. Regardless of what actually ends up happening in the movie, which we won't spoil, but whatever ends up happening in the movie, I don't see anybody walking out of there. That would seem to... Although, to be fair, then the pullback might suggest differently too.
True.
Right? The multiple screens at the end
There is a
seem to
twist.
suggest there is some method even to what seems to us to be not exactly a twist ending, but...
Well, there's no other way to end it, really.
No, that's true. Yeah, I guess that might be a little... I would say...
The ending is meant to say that... I took it to mean, yes, this is far bigger than we think. It's not just this one building, but there's that element to it. But also that the way the test is set up, the outcome is inevitable.
Yes. But then I guess, although, to be fair, all right, one of the things, just because I want to talk to you about it, so do we want to do like a little spoiler thing or something? Because I do want to talk to you about the ending.
Sure, go ahead.
All right, so spoilers.
This is a spoiler song because at least 3 people demand it. Yeah, at least 3 people. This is a spoiler song. Because at least 3 people demand it. Yeah. Whoa. Because when there's a spoiler on the after movie diner, they expect me to whip out my ukulele and do a song about the fact there's a spoiler happening right now. So here I am yet again. But only those three people demanded. Everyone listening to it the first time, they are all confused. Or maybe you listened to an episode in the past, but it didn't have a spoiler song. And you're thinking, what the hell am I listening to right now? I don't understand this, because you didn't go back to the earlier episodes, like episode 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Back when I had spoiler songs every single episode. Now I just do it for those 3 people who want it, so the rest of you can just shut up and enjoy this song for what it's worth. Yeah. Oh, and there's spoilers.
Lead bloke gets out at the end, gets taken to the warehouse.
Where was he
door.
from again? Is he from The Office?
No, I don't. He looks vaguely familiar, but I don't.
He's in something. He's in like a rom-com or something.
Yeah, but I don't know what exactly. She looked familiar too, but I couldn't exactly place it.
Right, but he's from something. Like, I'm kicking myself thinking about it. But yeah, the main...
Well, I would guess that one of the things they've done with this is just get lots of, get TV stars from big movies, from big shows should be in their movie. But anyway,
Right.
at the end, when he walks out and he's interviewed by the people who ran the experiment, the faces we see at the end, where clearly this is happening all over the world, initially I was like, oh, they've all done the same thing, but actually I don't think that's true. I think that would be a bridge too far. I don't think Scars McGee... yes, I would love to. Thank you very much. I don't think Greg Henry is expecting to get killed. I don't think any of them are expecting to get killed. I think that the other shots are from, like, they're sometimes from inside buildings, and I think it's like the point maybe before their interview. But I wonder if, we don't know what would have happened to him. I wonder if phase 2 is these people that have survived are then gathered together for something, for some purpose.
Well, I've got a feeling that Greg Henry was someone who had survived the previous one.
Yes, yeah, I think that was certainly...
Otherwise, why did he have scars all over his
Yeah, I think that's certainly implied. Initially I thought, they're going to want him to go work for them or something. But there were so many of them at the end. They talk about like phase 2. I wonder if maybe even Greg Henry doesn't know what it's really about. And I wonder whether they're not like finding people to like do something.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like Cloverfield and Cloverfield Lane.
I haven't seen either of them.
You should see 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Everyone says that, but I haven't seen the first one.
You don't need to see the first one, which wouldn't really be your cup of tea, although me and Teresa liked it very much. Actually, it's a very good New York monster movie, and the found footage thing works quite well. And I enjoyed it very much. You don't need to know anything about Cloverfield to watch and thoroughly enjoy 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah.
Of just being an awesome little standalone movie. And what it is it's more like it takes place in like it's a shared. The shared universe thing is a bit misleading.
Right.
What it means is that 10 Cloverfield Lane makes sense in the context of a world where Cloverfield happened.
Right. Okay.
That's it. It's on Hulu.
Okay.
I would not be able to recommend it enough. It's great.
Okay.
It's a lot like the Belko thing, actually. It's like we don't have a lot of money. We've got one location, some good actors, and a good script. Let's make a film.
Yeah.
And I think actually with things like 10 Cloverfield Lane and this Belko Experiment thing, is these films are designed, I think, for the streaming world. Because I think the thing about the streaming world versus cinema, right, is that cinema is there's tits on the poster, a gory title. Once you've got them, right? And there's a bit of word of mouth, but really, you'll make your money just with the tits and the title, right?
Right.
Netflix isn't going to work like that because what
You
happens
just
is
start a whole studio based on that
tits and the
philosophy.
title.
Yeah.
Well, what
You've
I'm
already
saying-
got them there, mate.
But like
Tits and the title, sold, mate.
the trailer for the movie before, with the guy gets drawn, the drug deal goes wrong, the pimp's coming after him and who he loves. So he takes his magic tricks and he turns himself into a superhero.
Right.
It's a great idea for a film, and that's by the same studios as this one.
Right.
And again, it's like they've got a couple of TV actors in there. Clearly a pretty good script, because I mean, I don't know exactly how it's going to turn out, but I was reasonably interested in the idea. Like, and if they keep cranking those out, and they're all like, 3.5 star, maybe even 4-star level,
Right.
with like recognisable actors, good tight scripts.
Yeah.
Then Netflix are going to be like, yeah, we'll have 5 of your movies this year, and
I
we'll
think-
give you 50 million for it.
I think it's more
Not
that.
50 million, but
I think it's more that, in a very weird way, they've said recently that movies have become about spectacle and TV has become about ideas.
yeah.
And somewhere along the line, these movies, so movies made primarily for a streaming audience, bridge the gap.
Yeah.
So they're
Great.
movies about ideas.
And the reason is that if there's an audience out there for TV, i.e., I'm willing to sit down in the peace of my own home, and I'm willing to watch a good film with a good tight script. It doesn't have to be about spectacle, because I'm watching it on the small screen, which is where most people watch their streaming stuff, right? Yes, you need the big films to get them into the cinema, but Netflix need movies because me and Teresa watch a lot of TV, right? But for the last 3 months, we've watched hardly any TV. We just watch movies. Sometimes I just want to watch a fucking movie.
Yeah.
And the other thing is about a movie is it's only an hour and a half long. So it's a lot cheaper to make. You've got a smaller cast, smaller crew, smaller shoot time.
Yeah.
And you're in, you're out, you're done. That's it. And that's why, if you can do something like 10 Cloverfield Lane or Belko,
Tits in the title.
tits in the title. More than that, that's my point.
No,
is
I
that,
understand, no,
this is the kind of thing that, the number of films that me and Teresa, for example, have watched on Netflix, purely on the basis that, that sounds kind of interesting, it's got 4 stars, we should give that a try.
Yeah.
We know nothing about it, except that here we have a rating system where, it's good, or lots of people like it, so we're willing to give it a try. It's like word of mouth, you know what I mean? Like on the screen. It doesn't have to be critically acclaimed or, really. It's how you find these great little, and I've seen so many cool little, strange horror films on Netflix on the basis of just like, it's 3.5 stars, let's give it a go. And there's a market there, is my point. And I'm I guess I'm hopeful.
Yeah, this has a sort of.
I'm hopeful for the future.
This one sort of had a. It's along the same kind of lines as, not plot-wise, but kind of setup-wise, as something like a Pontypool or whatever. you know?
Yeah.
And really, the nice thing about it, I was going to say, the nice thing about the idea is it sort of writes itself, because it does in a way. He did strike on one of those ideas, and the only reason I say kind of student film ideas, I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean that when you are of that age and you're kind of coming up with those sort of ideas, they tend to be let's whip a twist on this, or let's put a sinister tone on this, or let's really study human psychology with this witty idea I've had. And it is one of those things, and it could so easily have been kind of smug and self-congratulatory with how look how I'm deconstructing the human psyche, and it's not like that at all. It actually felt, what was nice about it is he actually went, because it's Lord of the Flies, or it's The Mist, or whatever, or Battle Royale, or whatever. It's those movies where you're you take a group of humans and they're going to split into roughly 3 to 4 groups. One group's going to act this way, one group's going to act this way, one group's going to act this way, one group's going to act this way. Play it out. You know what I mean? And it's part Lord of the Flies, part Battle Royale, part like in The Mist, where it's aliens are attacking the supermarket, but what is it actually about? It's actually about that if we were all trapped in this room together, Some of us are going to turn to Jesus. Some of us are not going to believe the aliens are there. Some of us are going to fight amongst ourselves. Whatever it is, and it's one of those ideas. But it is done as well as any of those. I think.
is, and actually, I think what's different about this one and why I think it's so fun.
In fact, it was interesting that there was no religion to it.
No, and that's
Even the person, because in it there is someone wearing a hijab, right?
yes, and that's never even referred to.
A Middle Eastern lady wearing a headscarf. There, the obvious thing would have been like to have the white COO pull her out and be like,
may they stay clear.
He didn't do that,
No.
and there was no like praying. There was no talking. There was no religion to the movie, which, considering the situation they find themselves in, was really interesting. That they didn't go down that road.
I think it's because what it became about.
Would have made it too flabby. Just kept it nice and
Yeah,
lean.
but I think what it was that if you look at the and this is why there's a lot of like writerly discipline to it, in the sense that like when the writer is the guy in charge, which it was in this movie, he's not directing it. It's like, no, I'm the right. So he doesn't have to worry about directing it. Well, I'm sure when he directs things, I'm sure in Guardians of the Galaxy he made God knows how many compromises.
Right.
But in this case, like, if they come to me and go, well, listen, we're thinking about changing your script. No. I'm James Gunn, I directed Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm producing this film, you'll keep my script as it is, thanks. But what I'm saying is, I think what the script was interested in more than anything was what the people watching it were interested in. The people watching it didn't care about religion. They didn't care about, did you have kids or do you not have kids, or what your motivations are, or even, are you a nice guy? It was only concerned with what are they going to do. So the whole film, up past a certain point, stopped being about them and stopped being about character and just was only concerned about what these people were doing. So it was all action. It was all running and killing and murdering and panicking and freaking out and yelling. It was all stuff that people were doing. And it didn't matter whether it was a guy with who was once in special forces, or they didn't even like paint the office worker guy as like anything more than he's a nice enough bloke. He thinks it's probably a better idea if we don't kill everyone. And I quite fancy this bird. But like his character was no more than that. And yet, that
Jim is referring to the guy who
the
ultimately
lead.
survived.
Yeah, the guy ultimately makes it out. But like all there is for him is at the beginning.
Who is totally budget Paul Rudd. That's what he is. He's like budget Paul Rudd. He's like sitcom Paul Rudd.
No, I think he's more.
No, he is totally.
No, I think he's more budget Chris Pratt. Like he had the shaggy kind of.
I just meant in terms of he's a rom-com lead who.
No, he's not Paul Rudd, because Paul Rudd's too like clean cut. Like this guy's young.
That's why I'm saying he's budget Paul Rudd.
No, but I'm saying Paul Rudd is too old and too clean cut. This guy's young. He's early 20s and shaggy. No, I'm not missing your point, because if I'm a Hollywood executive producer and I go, get me a Paul Rudd type, if you brought me this bloke, I would fire you. You would be fired. You would be the subject of a sacking, is what would happen. If I said, bring me a budget Chris Pratt from season 3 of Parks and Recreation, this is the guy that I would bring.
Okay, but he's not as dumb as Chris Pratt.
No, he's not. That's true. He's not dumb. It's more like the look of it. And I know what you mean about, he's kind of a straight, not exactly goofy. And
he's meant to be He's meant to be everyman.
Yeah, he'd be like, he's like Simon Pegg in Shaun of the Dead, that kind of figure.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to try to do the right thing, but that could lead to some fuck-ups along the way. Because I'm not really like... But the only core to him is that at the beginning, he chose to try and do the right thing. And so every one of his actions is simultaneously trying to cope with the situation while trying to hang on to this kernel of an idea that he believes forms his identity. Like, I'm the kind of person who this.
Right.
And Tony Goldwyn and the rest of them, their identity is, I have a wife, I have kids, I want to live. Because family engenders a kind of selfishness, because you are responsible. And even though it is a cop-out in the movie, it's obviously a cop-out, that doesn't mean it's not true. And it's just like that each character is holding on to some kernel of their identity to try and deal with these unimaginable horrors. And his is to try and do the right thing.
But I think Goldwyn's was more... Goldwyn seemed to me more about... more about the numbers.
Yeah, he was very Republican. He was very
business.
Sometimes you got to, you want to make an omelette, you got to shoot some people in the back of the head. Like that was, and that's again.
And he wasn't like McGinley, on the other hand, would have just shot all of them and stood there quite happily. Goldwyn, on the other hand, was like, well, okay, we're not going to shoot the people who have families. We're going to shoot people over 60. We're going to shoot people who are. I didn't understand then when he started to pick out other people because he had to make up the numbers why he was picking them. Like
I think that's the point. I think what happened was he had some idea. So there's a point when Goldwyn decides, okay, we have to do this, right? And so he tries to be sensible. He's like, right, anyone who's got kids, because I've decided that kids, like any, right-wing nutter, kids, it's all about the kids. You've got to, keep the kids safe.
Well, no, under 18. If your kids were over 18...
No, that's what I'm saying. But like that idea of, anyway, the family being paramount. So that's his thing. So he says, anybody who's got kids under 18, you step forward. And they step forward and they get put to one side. You go, okay, anybody over 60? He's like, let's be methodical about this. These are people that deserve to be saved. And he hasn't got any further than that.
Right.
But the people that deserve to be saved, people have kids, like me. And the people who deserve to die, people like me don't really need. Like, people who are over 60, so let's go over here. And if there's anybody been disabled or whatever. But what was interesting is at that point...
Oh, you never saw that? There was someone in a wheelchair, but you didn't see...
Oh, okay. Well, So
you
I guess...
didn't see what happened.
So I think what happened was his brain had gotten that far.
Right.
And then he was kind of like, just like any Republican right-wing plan, is like, well, we've got a vague idea of what we want. And then when it comes to the actual practicality, it's like, shit, we're like way short of what we want to do. So then it's not that he picks randomly with any kind of thought, it's just, he's going, I have to pick people. I can't think about this, because if I think about it, if it's about the colour of their skin, or that they're disabled, or that I don't like them, then what I'm doing is like tainted, you know what I mean? Then I am like a fucking psycho. I'm trying to play the numbers here and that's it. So I've got to be random about it. And anyone he's not random about, which is interesting, is the guy who hates him, the guy who's, trying to do the right thing, who's like thwarted him in the past. He thinks before he picks him. And you'd think when he like walks up to him, he's like, well, obviously you're going to get rid of him. But he thinks about it because it's the only choice he makes, is that guy.
Right.
The only one he picks. Because everyone else is like, if I think about it, I'll go mad. I won't be able to live with myself. If I walk out of this alive, I'll be able to go, well, it was about the numbers, I didn't pick anybody, there was no favourites, I just had to pick people.
It was really interesting because it would have been easy for this movie to have been...
It wasn't very moral, which was interesting to me. They didn't play sides, which I thought was...
No, it would have been very interesting to have made this movie like a psychological horror comedy with sort of Office Space undertones and that's my staple or whatever gags. And not only has Office Space kind of done that perfectly, so any kind of gag like that would have been immediately
redundant?
Well, no, yeah, not only redundant, but kind of like would have resulted in me sitting there go, oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
There was never that.
No, it was much more of it was a roller coaster ride.
There was a few things where like they got some dark humor out of sort of office signs, like signage and stuff, like please leave the bathroom in a clean state after you use it or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was kind of like
little like whack kind of gags.
It was like juxtaposition of the horror and what was interesting to me is when it started I was like, oh, this is going to be like a black comedy. This is going to be like
and it's not.
And the more it goes in, you go, oh, this is just a straight up horror film.
Yeah,
this is just a horror movie with occasionally bits of like relief, but not even relief because it doesn't. There's no breather in it. It's very intense.
You just about.
There are bits of it that are like unbearably intense, and some of the violence is.
Some of the violence is ridiculous.
But also like fun / incredibly intense.
The After Movie Diner with Jon Cross will return right after this.
We'll do it live. F*** it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Hi, I'm Jay Mayo.
And I'm Marie.
Shut up!
I'm Marie.
Shut up!
I'm Marie Forster.
And we are co-hosts of Hold the Mayo podcast.
Hold the mayo.
Hold the mayo!
All right, give me ham on 5, hold the mail.
We're two local comedians, and here on Hold the Mail, we talk about all the different things that are going on in our daily lives.
Or in your case, your pathetic dating life.
Or in your case, your obsession with pizza.
Or in your case, you're Gatham for Statham.
Yeah? Well, at least I'm not obsessed with Guy Fieri.
At least I'm a gang leader.
No, you're not. You're just always trying to overthrow invisible gangs.
No, I'm cool in the gang.
No, you're... Oh, my God, the puns are the worst.
Mayonnaise, really? That stuff is for sandwiches.
Listen, you guys can find us all across the internet. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and everywhere else that podcast can be found. You can also find us all across social media. We're on Twitter at Hold the Mail Pod, Instagram at Hold the Mail Podcast, and of course, we have a Facebook fan page, facebook.com/Hold the Mail Podcast.
Don't forget, you can also find Jay crying on his couch every single night.
Thank you so much.
F***ing thing sucks.
And just end it with a fart.
You're listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner. Support us at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Or I'll punch you in the teats. Rate and review us on iTunes, Earthling.
Yeah, I think the difficulty is if you went into this, if you're the kind of person who goes into a movie and something like, 30 people having their heads blown out, which happens in this film.
Yeah.
If each one of those caused you to be like, oh my God, like you wouldn't get through this film. Like you would just be like, oh, I can't cope with it. If you were so serious about it. But you don't watch it and like laugh either.
No.
Like it's a weird thing. Like you can't be emotionally involved in every single death.
No.
But as a human, hopefully with some sort of moral core, once all the death has happened, you are left hopefully with a feeling of like, Jesus, like just, oh my God.
Very...
Just the kind of like nihilistic madness of the whole thing.
It was a very strange... Because there were, like...
There were some bits, like for example, where it's all scored to, because they're in Colombia, it's all scored to kind of Gypsy King style cover versions
Spanish
of
cover versions of famous
sort of
American
Spanish,
songs.
So there's obviously
California Dreaming.
Yes, and the other one was
I Will Survive.
I Will Survive,
which was great. Actually, that's when I knew I was going to like the movie, was the Spanish language I Will Survive at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's...
But it's very much like the Hotel California from The Big Lebowski,
Yeah.
which is the Gypsy Kings. But it's that kind of thing. But there is a sequence which I think, in order to...
Rachmaninoff, isn't it? Isn't that like a Rachmaninoff piano concerto?
There's that as well, but there are a couple of sequences where, to kind of undercut the horror just slightly, that they score it with some music. Because I mean, if it was quiet, and especially that sequence where James Gunn's brother is in the cafeteria he's going, it's all in my head, it's all in my head, and all you're seeing
it's like people
is
hiding
the
under
tables, all the people that are hiding under tables. The tables are like lifting up. You're hearing a grotesque popping sound and blood spraying out from under the table. If that was silent and all you were hearing him saying, it's all in my head, it's all in my head, and you were having to face every single one of those deaths, that would have been agonizing. So there was a certain attempt to like undercut the horror. But it was bleak as all hell.
It was, but there was a point after all these deaths, the most like repellent. What was interesting was the most repellent character in the whole film, McGinley. The guy who's a sleazebag, he's a pervert, he's the only one that's probably getting off on doing this. The only one that is doesn't even have to think about it to like get involved in killing people to live. After all these people have been killed with no ceremony at all, just either their brains blow up, or they get their brains blown out for them. Just before McGinley gets it in the head with the axe, there's an extended. I don't know how long it is, but it's not like a quick there's an expression on McGinley's face, and then boom, he's for it. He looks up, and he squirms and he begs and he pleads and he comes to some kind of acceptance, all in the space of like 5 seconds. But it's like very human, even though he's like a horrible character.
Right.
It's not played for laughs. I mean, he's McGinley, so like obviously it's funny because of who he is. But it's not meant to be that.
No.
It's meant to be. He's still a human, even though he's a repellent, awful pervert. And if you had to pick anybody to kill, he'd probably be the one.
Right. That and the big shouty, angry guy with the beard.
Yeah.
Who was also
but he
an
was
arsehole.
like nothing. I mean, specifically because the one that kills him eventually is the woman.
Right.
So that
Who he's
dynamic
been-
with the act, and like she's tried to kill him, and I'm sure, he's tried to kill her. But I'm just saying that after all that horror, the one human face they get is the guy that deserves it the most. And it's not the last death, and it's not the last death before the climax, but it is the death that happens at the climax of the other 31 people getting it. Like, that's the final thing of that sequence.
Yeah.
It was just interesting that they didn't pick like a likable character. Like a lot of the likable characters just went like that.
Yeah.
Like the little nerdy guy, the woman in the left, they just go.
Yeah.
Or they, turn psycho or they get shot, but whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's the one thing. I just thought that was just very cool, and like the true message of the movie, which is, it was a way of saying nobody in this building deserved to die. Like, not even like the repellent awful bloke,
Right.
Like, nobody deserved it.
Yeah. It was an interesting film. It certainly a very writing. It's certainly a writing exercise kind of film.
Yeah.
It's certainly like the writer as God. Like, that really is what it is.
Yeah.
It's like the voice of Greg Henry is like the voice of the writer. It's essentially like, I'm going to put these characters in a building, and my job is to kill them without remorse.
Yeah. And it didn't make any heavy-handed points, I don't think, about good and evil, or like in any other film. It's like you're saying, in any other film, Goldwyn would have been evil, and another bloke would have been good, and they would have like battled against each other. But it was more than that. It was, you did suspect that Goldwyn probably is right, and like, what's his face's best idea was the banners,
Right.
and I think that. Again, a big turning point in the movie was the black security guard. The look on his face when he was looking at, nice guy or whatever, after he'd hung the banners and like nothing had come of it. There was an expression on the security guard's face. It was like, I thought you were going to get us out of this.
Right.
But clearly that's not going to happen.
Right.
Clearly you're not.
But
And I think, and he knew that as well. And it was like the dynamic of the film changed at that point, and Goldwyn was the one with the plan, albeit like the horrible evil plan, but still probably their best hope. It wasn't about good and evil. It was about people, and it was about what people are capable of. And I think that the message of if they were studying anything, in the warehouse or whatever, it was like some nebulous idea of how do you control people who, when push comes to shove, will do this. How do you control that? How do you deal with that? Because if you were trying to run a peaceful, organised society, you'd have to deal with that you're trying to run a peaceful, organised society composed of human beings. And that's never, nobody's managed to do that yet. And the reason America's got close is going, right, we're all fucking arseholes. So let's just try and leave everybody alone as best we can to be arseholes and see what happens. And that's why it's the best society. Not the best society, but the most successful so far society.
But even that's showing massive holes.
No, agreed. I mean, I don't know about you, but I certainly feel like I'm living in the days of a dying empire. That's how I feel. And I think that this movie is kind of...
I don't know that I ever bought into...
I think that's what this movie's addressing. I think this movie's addressing that idea.
Yes, it is. I think right now what I'm living through is, I think, what scares people the most, which is... And there have been some good movies that have examined this, but how quickly and how fragile it all is.
Yeah.
Or rather, let me rephrase that. How fragile and how easily corruptible the perceptions everyone are. Meaning, so I don't know how strong or weak the reality is. Because I don't know. It might be as weak as they tell us,
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying.
or it might be stronger than we
Much more
think.
robust, yeah. And then
I
maybe
don't
people
know.
under Nixon lived through this.
However-
That same feeling of it all.
However, our perception, which certainly for the liberal and moderate sections of the country under Obama, was, we have him in the White House, he'll take care of it, and while we don't agree,
Oh, yeah. Thank you very
while
much.
we might agree or disagree, thank you, morally or psychologically with some of the things that are going on and da-da-da-da, ultimately we feel like someone somewhere's got our back, so we're not going to worry too much. And obviously there was a big portion of the country that wasn't feeling that. There was a big portion of the country that was feeling fear that whatever freedoms they thought they were having were going to be taken away by the big nasty man in the White House. But it was more of a nebulous idea because actually no freedoms were being taken away. Everyone could still worship wherever they wanted to worship, and everyone could still have the guns they wanted to have.
I think for them it was more an idea.
No.
It was more.
Oh my
No,
God.
but I'm just saying. No, I'm backing you up here. I'm saying in the same way that we feel like in some intangible way that we're careening towards something. You know, like our freedoms have been taken away. Yeah, and, I mean, obviously, like some people.
Some people have, right?
Right, but they're no more than people in Pakistan were getting blown up by drones. So, you know, I'm saying that feeling that we have of this is all leading somewhere. Like we're in a bus driven by Freddy Krueger. Do you know what I mean? Like we're heading towards like a cliff in a bus driven by a madman.
I don't necessarily feel that. I mean, yes, I know where you're coming from.
I think that's how they felt about it.
I was more talking to the perception which comes from the hype and the hoopla and the media and the internet and social media and the all that outrage and all the rest of it flipped like so quickly. It wasn't a thing where gradually there was a destabilization of the things we held dear and the things we held true. It was just boom. This.
Like in the movie, the shutters come up, the voice comes on the tannoy,
right,
and everything's
and so
changed.
I think what was fearful was seeing how quickly that could all change. The fact that it was so easy to flip that perception gave me in a weird way comfort that actually it was just a perception.
I know what you mean, but then, okay, so the thing is, and I think this is what the movie is,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do, but I think this is what the movie is talking about. Is the movie is like, the reason there's an audience for movies is there's a feeling, like deep down in all of us, right? I mean, especially people like you and me, that we've never really been, tested.
Right.
There's a feeling of no matter how bad
if this
it gets,
movie
we'll
happens
figure
to
it
me,
out.
I'm dead within 30 seconds.
But more than that, I'm saying it's preying on a feeling of being unprepared for being put in a position like a life or death situation. Like some guy who lives in the the slums of Bogota, for example. I wonder whether it being in that place is it's supposed to subconsciously act as a reminder of being American. It's a very different experience to being, an Afghani or an Iraqi or whatever. Or a Syrian. We couldn't even imagine what that life would be. And I'm sure for in a lot of places around the world, it is like this office building, but they can't get out. That it's them or the other bloke next to them because there's only one bit of bread or whatever.
Right.
And it's what do people do in that scenario? And what would you do? And I'm not saying that it's that what the movie's positing necessarily has any value. I don't know about that, but I'm saying I think the reason there's an audience for it is that feeling of I have never been tested, I have never been put under pressure, and I find relief, comedy, in the idea that somebody like me, like the good guy or Goldwyn or whoever's watching the film is represented in some way in the movie somewhere, I would be worm food, or I would be corrupted, or there's some kind of what's that word? Catharsis in watching this film, because it's sort of like. So the reason I'm coming back to the Trump thing is I feel like the perception that you're talking about, I think there is a catharsis in feeling like your worst fears are happening. Right? They are being represented. There's it's like the Bill Hickson watching cops thing. It's that thing about like Brexit and Trump and all the rest of it. It's like one of the reasons that like we like to exaggerate the possible horrors of this thing that's happening, whether it's Obama or Trump, depending on which side of the political spectrum you're on. The reason people like to exaggerate the ramifications of these things or the potential consequences is there's a catharsis in seeing your worst fears like made real. Like when they were going to drop the Trump taxes, and everybody thought, come on, show a connection with Russia. We want to see it. So in other words, people are actively wishing for the leader of the free world to be in the pocket of Russia, to be, you know what I mean? Like, because then they would be right. You know what I mean? Then they would be right that it's all corrupt and that we're all fucked and maybe we get rid of them or whatever. But rather than thinking like how we would think about, Republicans thinking about Obama, like just look at him, right? Take it easy, take a deep breath, look at what he's actually doing, ask, try and deal with this rationally. Don't just jump to he's going to take away our guns, lock us up in camps and outlaw Christianity. But they, having those fears realised, like us, as like schlubby office workers watching this movie, because that's that comedy that we were talking about the juxtaposition of total horror and like the mundane is we're aware, I think, you and I, deep down, that the mundane office life has made us, as it were, unfit for purpose,
right?
Post-civilization purpose, like post-apocalyptic purpose. Yeah, I would definitely be the guy with 3 heads begging for change by the gate of the Citadel. Do you know what I mean? I'm not the hero who's going to sort that out. I'm definitely the freak that maybe, like, I don't know, is eating the eyeballs out of a dead dog or something. Like, there's no way I get through it. And seeing that on screen, just like, the perception, the media playing to that perception of Trump as like the, this second coming of Satan, he's going to bring down the union and we're all fucked, there is a weird, touching your tooth, painful tooth catharsis about seeing or imagining your worst nightmares coming true in front of you.
Yeah, and there's also, yes, definitely.
I think I quite neatly tied together.
That was tremendous.
Thanks,
that was tremendous. I did like that a lot, genuinely.
It's good to be back, by the way.
It is. It's fantastic. I'm enjoying it.
And what a great film! What a great film to come back to as well.
Yes.
Not a Cusack, not a Cage.
No, but it was fun.
But it was
a McGinley Goldwyn.
A horror film, a McGinley Goldwyn joint.
Yeah.
It was clearly made for no money. Like when they were walking him out at the end, the building was so clearly green screen behind him. At one location, probably like a week shoot, maybe 2.
No, I mean they probably shot this over 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, okay, maybe a couple of weeks.
Couple of months.
The effects, I think, would have some of the effects were really nice and practical.
They were,
I think. Like when the axe was going to McGinley's face, the parts where I could look, like there was definitely it wasn't CGI'd. It was like a dummy because it had that when he was like picking through the back of the guy's brain, it had like a nice
the tactile quality. The blood spatter wasn't either.
No, it was really like wet and thick and...
Well, squibs. It was actual squibs and stuff, squibs, which I really liked.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But Rooker's, what happened to Rooker, that was a really touching moment as well.
Yeah.
Rooker going, wait, something happened.
Although that would be bleeding like crazy in reality. The fact that didn't bleed
I
was
don't
a bit
know
weird.
if... Oh, yes.
No, it does. Your forehead bleeds like crazy, even if you nick it.
But I think they made a choice because the dent was... Because there was a bit where he was hit, you weren't sure how bad he was injured, and to cut back to him looking puzzled and like wondering what's happened. And it's kind of like wistful, kind of sad way, and there's this huge dent. And you're going, oh, well, he's dead. He's dead, man. And then just to see him talking through the confusion of the final moments of his life was really... I don't know, affecting. I found it very affecting, that moment.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, also because I think you probably assumed Rooker was in there to play like the crazy. And actually he played this like sweet kind of guy.
The only one who came up with the practical idea of the blowtorch. the only one that tried to fix the air conditioner. Like he was the, and he was just like a regular Joe.
And he was trying to calm his friend down.
He could just as easily been the hero. If that had been Nathan Fillion, for example, instead of Rooker, you'd think he might be the hero. You know what I mean? Like it was.
Yeah, Fillion was the only one missing. It's the only James Gunn movie
like the blue collar guy coming out of there. That could have been legitimate.
Yes.
I mean, it would have been very
weird that Fillion wasn't in it, huh?
I wonder if they wanted him. I don't know. I don't think Fillion can carry. I don't see where Fillion would fit into that. He's just too likable.
Yeah, I guess so.
You know what I mean? Like Goldwyn is obviously.
Well, Goldwyn always plays a shit.
He's like a cad, yeah, and McGinley is a psycho. Sometimes he's a funny psycho, but usually a psycho.
Yeah.
But he's not, he's not likable. He's not lovable. But Fillion's quite lovable. It's like instant. Oh, we're going to root for this.
Apparently not, considering what went on behind the scenes of Castle. But
why? What happened behind the scenes?
didn't hear about this?
No.
Oh, apparently, like Stan Akatic and him, like apparently fought like cats and dogs for 3 or 4 seasons, till her contract was not renewed. Let's put it that way.
Well,
and then they cancelled it. Now they cancelled it before they could do a season without her. So I don't know if Fillion asked for her to.
All I would say is this.
I don't know what happened.
All I know about Fillion is this.
And he's not said anything nasty about her in public, but
all I know about Fillion is this. Fillion, when he has worked with somebody, they want to work with him again. Do you know what I mean? Like, and
everyone, yeah.
And if that leads me, if I had to like pick which one of them was like the crazy person, it wouldn't be him.
Right.
And it's not just because I like him, but I don't think you use him again. Like Whedon wouldn't use him again. Dan Harmon wouldn't use him again. Like, it's just. Is he in another?
Well, James Gunn has used him in everything.
Yes. So, and these are like James Gunn and Joss Whedon and Dan Harmon are very.
They wouldn't put up with someone being a nasty bastard.
No, a bigger ego than that, for sure. Like they are people who they have their vision and they get people in, but you better like follow the fucking vision, Yeah. And I think clearly Fillion is capable of doing that, and that doesn't strike me as an arsehole ego kind of a guy. If you work
but
with
he
those
did
people,
do 7 seasons on like a prime time.
Yeah, but if you get offered a prime time, maybe. Also, nobody expected that to be a hit. You've got to remember when that came out. When that first started, nobody had a hit except CBS. Nobody.
Yeah.
NBC, Fox, ABC, none of them had a hit. Castle was like, oh fucking hell, we've got a hit. And they threw money at it. And if I was Fillion, and I was like getting on the porky side of leading man, which, he was.
Yeah.
And he's like, he paid his dues, and he's been in like really worthwhile stuff. So, I'll just do this. Why the fuck not?
Yeah, I guess so.
And they obviously, by the way, the people that worked with him on that show clearly liked him. They wouldn't have let. There were loads of Firefly gags and jokes and stuff like that. And I don't see them doing that if they didn't like working with him. You know what I mean? He goes, hey, why don't I dress up as my Firefly character? And they all hate him. And they go, no. You know what I mean?
Yeah, although at a certain point, if you star in a TV show long enough, they make you an executive producer and you can just about do whatever you want.
No, but he did that in season 1. He dressed up as Malcolm Reynolds.
Which was awesome.
That was a funny season. I stopped liking it after season 3, but season 1 was funny.
But no, just to quickly...
Sorry,
so no,
way
no,
off track there.
To wrap up then, good film, not for the faint of heart. I would like if you do not like
enjoy your
if you don't like gore and you don't have a dark sense of humor, then forget this film.
Because like Slither's got some like not gore exactly, but
no, Slither's like body horror, full blown from beyond style body horror.
So that kind of, if you like that kind of
Slither is completely a love letter to From Beyond and Night of the Creeps and
even The Stuff to some extent.
The Stuff, yeah. I mean, it's a love
what's
letter
the one
to
we
those
saw
80s
in
horror films.
On your birthday? The alien, Carl McLaughlin.
Oh, The Hidden.
The Hidden. Those elements of The Hidden in that.
Sure. But I mean, they're all from the same era. They're all 80s, weird, left of center horror films.
But I'm saying, as in, you had to have a strong stomach to enjoy Slither.
Yeah.
In the same way, as in, like there's clearly a thing about James Gunn that he has a bit of a bit of glee in pushing the gore.
Look at Super. Super's incredibly violent.
Yeah.
And also dark again. I mean, think of the whole his sidekick rapes him.
Yeah.
In Super.
Yeah.
Like, he's not shy of doing... But then he comes from Troma, where the whole point in Troma is, like, how much, gore, tits, rape, madness can we throw at the
I
screen.
think I have high hopes. If this is... Because this is the same studio that does a lot of those...
Isn't it Blumhouse?
Yeah, like a lot of the modern horrors, which actually I generally speaking, I quite enjoy, because they're quite neat ideas, and they're trying to create new mythologies of their own. They're not just ripping off old stories. They're trying to create new mythologies, and I kind of respect that.
Yeah.
Even if it's a bit, cheesy and by the numbers sometimes. It's not. They don't make films where cats jump out of cupboards, and they don't make films where people suddenly close mirrored kitchen cabinets. To see someone behind them.
True.
It's like there's something else. They're trying to do something else. And I think this is they've done that with we can make little $10 million pictures that do well at the cinema because teenagers go and see them and they're horror films. It's like, well, great. And this seems to be an attempt to make streaming films specifically for streaming. So I would guess this, the Magician one, things that are original ideas. But they've got, let's get a good script. We'll give it 10 million. Some actors from TV that have got their own followings. You know what I mean? Things that make you go, oh, what we used to be when we were teenagers.
Yeah.
If there was a guy we would go and see. We saw films that had Martin Clunes in because we like men behaving badly, even though obviously the films he were in.
Yeah.
Were not going to be good.
No.
We'd go, we like Martin Clunes or Rick Mail or whatever. We'll see that film, and that's a sound logic to make a film if it's a good film.
Yeah. Oh no, look, I'm totally for the resurgence of the $3 to $10 million.
But I think this is how it happens. This kind
studio
of film.
indie. Yeah.
This is how it happens.
Yeah.
It's not just. Sometimes people talk about it's either, the big bang superhero $200 million picture, or it's the $1 million Sundance thing. But I think there is a place for, let's get a budget, let's get people that know what they're doing, and let's get C-level actors who are good too. Everyone in that film, by the way,
imagining
was
this,
good and believable.
I would say this movie probably cost $7 million, if that.
Yeah. I mean, it's in the high single figures, I would guess. But it is only one location, and it looked like a reasonably quick shoot. And I can't imagine they did many reshoots.
Because there's something really interesting's happened with the Kevin Smith films in particular. Just because, and the only reason I say this is because Kevin Smith talks a lot about the business behind. Because he has all these podcasts, he talks about the business. But one thing I've learned, the reason why he's able to pump out these movies, people are like, how the fuck's he making yoga hoses? Who cares? Is that he has enough of a following that he can go to a company like A24 or one of these little indie release. There's another one that's XYZ, something like that. Go to them, say, I have an idea, it's $3 to $4 million. They fund it, and before they even shoot a scene, they sell the European rights on the basis of this is the next Kevin Smith film, and the movie is already in the black. He literally cannot fail. He can film his butt for 3 hours and put that out, and the movie's already in the black. It's already made money because they've sold it. They've made it for $3 to $4 million. They've sold the European rights for $5 to $6 million. Boom, already in the black.
Yeah.
So if you're Blumhouse, you say, well, let's take that. And let's say we're going to make films from $5 to $15 million. Let's say that's their wheelhouse, and maybe we sell the Asian rights. We say the European rights, and we sell the whatever.
Well, interestingly enough,
and make it so that they're doing that.
Interestingly enough, the three biggest players in the streaming market, Hulu, Amazon, and Netflix, are not entities that are owned outright by a big conglomerate. So Disney or Warner or
Sony or anything.
Sony or whatever. They are separate entities, businesses. Hulu is a little bit of NBC, a little bit of Fox, but it's they've all got a little bit of a stake in it, but it's all minority stuff. And obviously, But that's, again, it's more network TV, nothing to do with movies. So
Is Hulu not part owned by Universal, NBC?
No, part funded, but Fox have got a stake, and ABC have a stake, and ABC have a stake in Hulu, but Disney is still selling their movies to Netflix.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, you've got three big players: Amazon, Netflix, and Hulu, and they all need movies, and they all need movies that are different from the other guy, but they also need like a steady stream. They need like their big, their big TV series, and they need their big movies, but they also need they need libraries, because one of the reasons people leave Netflix or Amazon or whatever is like, I've seen everything, I don't want to see any more. So you need like a steady stream of new, good stuff. It doesn't need to be like great, like 3.5, 4 stars or whatever.
Oh, by the way, that one that Netflix just put out, their original movie.
I want to see that.
I'm fed up with the world anymore, whatever that was called. I've had enough of this world. Really good. And another amazing Elijah Wood performance.
Good old
Seriously,
Elijah.
like Elijah Wood makes the movie.
So, but anyway, my point about it is that if you've got a situation where you've got three big players with a lot of money who need content, but they can't afford to be like blowing, 25 million on a single picture. But what they can do is they can pay a production company. They can give them like a substantial check for X number of movies over the course of the year. But they want to be like, they want to see things like Hammer used to be, or like the Italian studios, like those kind of things that were like, we'll pump out 5 or 6 pictures a year of a pretty consistent standard with this thing going on, and they'll distributors or whatever will pick it up, and that's what they are now. These are like the distributors, but they've got competition. If it was just Netflix, forget it. But they've got competition, so they have to pay. Not a lot,
but it's interesting because it is slightly what happened when VHS came out. There are a lot of like indies cropping up, distribution companies and production companies cropping up all over the shop again, and a few being revived. Like, wasn't this part funded by Orion?
That was so weird because we were watching it,
and like
it almost felt like a deliberate. Because if Orion is still around, I don't believe for a minute that they still have the same
80s VHS
thing, which is why the whole thing kind of felt a bit throwback, even though they did have email and the cars were modern. But it was a weird like, because actually I tell you, it felt the whole movie felt a lot like a Star Video rental that we'd be like, wow, that was intense.
But fun. But good. And so thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, man.
Nice conversation about it.
I had a really, really long time to go. So let's just hope that this, because the wrestling one we saw as well, it's the same idea, like small studio.
The WWE one.
Like that. The more small little studios there are that put out fun little B movies and play them in the cinema for a week, then we'll keep going to see them.
Definitely.
And I'll be very happy to do that.
All right, arrivederci.
Thanks very much for having me, man.
If you've liked this episode of the After Movie Diner, or indeed any episode of the After Movie Diner, why not look up miscellaneous plumbing fixtures? We're at MiskPlumFix on Twitter. You can find us on Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, wherever music is found. Why not give us a listen? Why not buy a couple of songs? I will now be playing a song on this podcast now. And if you like it, why not go hunt down other miscellaneous plumbing fixtures, songs, albums, wherever it can be found. On Spotify, that's the best way. It costs you nothing, but it throws a few cents our way. Why not go do that? Why not put it in your stream or on your playlist or do something? Anyway, you know what the drill. Enough of all this bollocks. Here's a song. Thanks ever so much for listening. Look out for another episode next week.
So they can't find me. I got my picture nailed to an old oak tree. Got to head right out past the city line, where the living is free and the weather is fine. Gonna take a big sip of that Mississippi River. Well, this wide old country where you know it
fortune on the riverboat and spend it all again.